to Leyton's Expert Exchange podcast. We are here today for the next episode in our Women in Business series. I'm delighted to introduce you to Kathryn Lynch. Now, Kathryn is going to introduce herself today because you wear many, many hats here in Ireland within the innovation industry. So, Kathryn, over to you. Welcome.
Thanks, Sarah. Kathryn Lynch is my name. I am the CEO of my own consulting firm, Chronos Consulting. But I suppose for today's conversation, you mentioned my many hats. I'm the Vice Chair of Innovate Ireland, which is an all-Ireland network of innovation advocates and policy influencers. I'm also the Chair of the Gael Small Business and Enterprise Council. I've been involved in the Public Service Innovation Board. I've been an industry rep on an EU group for academic industry collaboration. So I wear many hats, but I'm involved in ultimately trying to drive innovation and growth, particularly in the SME sector, which dominates the Irish industrial landscape. And perhaps a lot of the focus heretofore has been on our multinational, fabulously welcome and valuable cohort within our industry ecosystem. But we need to use that horrible phrase, level up, where our SMEs, our Indigenous SMEs particularly, can grow, and innovation plays such a vital role in that space. So that's where I'm at. I kind of come at it from a policy perspective, from a practice perspective, and with my own clients trying to drive that growth and innovation. Yeah. Message.
Yes, so when I was thinking about a guest for this innovation focused episode, we'd crossed paths at an event and I was like, I'd love to get Kathryn involved, so thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the episode. So to kick things off today, we've spoke about innovation off mic, and innovation's often associated with invention or technical advancement, but you've highlighted that it's much broader. So it's about creating value with intentional change. How would you define innovation in a way that's accessible and actionable to organisations?
Well, firstly, I think innovation is a mindset. And innovation to change, develop, grow, whatever you want to call it, but it is creating that capturing new value, creating new value through change that is intentional within your organisation, yourself. But also in the kind of the wider ecosystem. And like it or not, we are constantly changing. But sometimes it gets a bad rap, it gets the, oh my God, change is so hard. And so when we try to say we're an innovative company, or maybe where we think about what innovation looks like, it's like, oh, well, we're not inventing widgets, or we're not a really, really fancy tech company. Mm-hmm. But if you've come up with a new product, or you've entered a new market, or you've come up with a new way of doing something, that's innovation. And we maybe don't recognize it as such, and we don't give ourselves the credit as such. So that's something that we really need to think about as a industry going forward.
Yeah, we often talk about, technical uncertainty or challenge, and overcoming that is kind of the cornerstone of what research and development, what innovation is. Yeah. So how do you think misconceptions around what innovation is, how does that impact organisations' approach to change?
Well, I suppose I'd look at it externally, and if you think about it, even in terms of policy measures, pure R&D gets positive tax treatment. Yep. So if you're off in a lab, or you're whatever, you're building something through a formal R&D process, and you have 55 accountants at your disposal, you can go and claim, through which is pretty complex process, a very comprehensive R&D tax credit. Now that's fabulous, and I know that's your business, but that's not open to everybody. But equally, our broader understanding of innovation does not get the same treatment. It does not get the same recognition. So a company who is doing a new thing, or as I said, a new market or a new product or a new, approach to something, costs them money to do that.
Absolutely.
But they don't get any sort of support and recognition for that. So I really want for us to understand what innovation in the broader sense means, but also drive a mindset and a culture, particularly in Ireland, where we may have a culture towards, oh, it never worked. Oh, it didn't. Ah, sure, look, sure, they tried it, but it didn't work. But you have to try it every week.
Yeah.
And you have to have a go. And you have to have a go, create a culture and a mindset even in your company that having a go is where the value is going to be created. It may not be the way you thought it was going to be, but you're going to learn something and you kick on and you do it again. Absolutely. Learn and grow. And that's really where we need to support all of our industry to do that.
Yeah. And how do you go about, I guess, influencing some of that mindset change? What's your role in influencing that mindset change?
So, now.
Threw a curveball at you.
Talk to anybody who listened to me. But with Innovate Ireland, we absolutely are trying to create that space whereby even within our membership and our outreach, it's driving that idea of it's not R&D, it's not in a lab. Sorry, it's not only R&D, shall we call it. And trying to give particularly smaller businesses the confidence to know, ask maybe the silly question and reach out to a community that are supportive of what they're trying to do. And nobody has all the answers. So we need to just grow that conversation to say, okay, yeah, if you're doing this, maybe you could try this, and this is another opportunity. That's why I got involved in writing the ISO, the 56001, which is an innovation management standard. And I came at it very much from the perspective of make it simple, make it clear, make it paint by numbers, follow the yellow brick road, somebody's done the thinking for me. If I have these in place, I'm giving myself every best chance to grow an innovation mindset in my company and to benefit from that structure. So that's all I was interested to do, is keep it very simple, very practical, and very accessible for small businesses, particularly so they could grow their innovation practice. And it's been launched in September. It will kind of filter out into the ecosystem, but we're very clear that it's practical and accessible.
Yeah.
And it's not that, only in the confines of the big companies with big budgets and, tech forward companies. It's anyone can do it.
Yeah, it's a mindset, and it's very critical to the future of anyone's business in this day and age, how quickly things move.
Well, this is it. And the only constant is change. And oh my God, have we seen a lot of new change coming this week, particularly with the new political setup in the US. But it's coming at us all the time, in our lives, in our work, in our environment. Change is coming, good and bad, and having our ability to kind of take that in, absorb it and figure out what it means and do something, again, intentional with it, as opposed to feeling like you're being reactive and buffeted by winds, external to you. Getting on that front foot, having that mindset about, okay, what's next? Where am I going? What are the market signals? What are the tea leaves saying? And what do we do with it? Yeah. That's very much an innovation mindset. The answers are not clear. It is, you're dealing with uncertainty and ambiguity. And perhaps in some instances you're making some good bets. You're making some big bets. But if you've done it from a place of kind of empowered thinking as opposed to reactive, oh my God, thinking, that is a whole different, it's a whole different opportunity for a company or an organization. Yeah. And really, really our sense of innovation has to change.
Yeah. So as we've spoke about, leading innovation often involves embracing uncertainty, building social capital and driving change in environments that may not be supportive. So what unique challenges have you faced as a woman in leadership, particularly in the context of innovation?
Yeah, look, sometimes it can be a bit of a lonely road. Frequently, I might be the only woman in a room. Well, there's always a benefit. There's no queue for the loo. But it kind of, you take a step back and look, and you think, if you're in an organisation and you're trying to drive change, where sometimes it's uncomfortable and there isn't certainty attached to it. Ironically, that needs a lot of people skills, collaborative effort to bring people along. Because we've all heard the stories, and it's a bit apocryphal where, digital transformation, 70% of those projects fail. Now, I've come from that space and I understand why. Because it's plonked in as this is what we're doing. And bringing people along with you is kind of what do you mean you don't like it? You never asked me, right? So by creating a culture of change in an organization, it's, even if it's, small and incremental, but people are used to it. Trying to kind of plonk these big, and sometimes they are almost existential changes if somebody, if it's a technology change or somebody's fearful for their jobs or whatever, that you have to bring people along. Now, the irony or maybe the uncomfortable bit is that it may not go as fast, but it'll be much more comprehensive. The challenge being, though, that in the rush to have those people skills, it sometimes gets regarded as a soft skill. Now, women are particularly, I'm not saying it's better or worse, they just have objectively and empirically more of those people-oriented skills to bring people along. We work collaboratively, we just have a different style. All the studies will show that they're effective and they work, whatever, all of those things. It's effective when you're trying to bring change through an organisation and when you're trying to help people feel safe in that change and have that psychological safety to be able to move with it in an area where they're not maybe feeling, entirely secure in what they're doing. Taking innovation leadership is uncomfortable because it's bringing people through, uncomfortable feelings, but equally very difficult to put a monetary value on what that change can bring. And unfortunately, while we're still driven by monetary targets and rewards, that makes it very challenging for somebody to be recognized for their efforts. Okay, so building social capital in your organization, being the trusted voice, being the person who can bring people along to say, listen, this might feel a bit uncomfortable, but we'll get through it. That is key. So the people who you see succeed, male and female, who are typically appointed in those roles, are really good at people skills. And it mightn't be that you're very good at AI skills or whatever it is that the tech, pet tech project this week. But what will that mean for people? Because organizations are made of people and leadership is human. So it can be uncomfortable. You're not rewarded for being nice. You're rewarded for delivery, and sometimes that's slower than perhaps a shareholder expectation or a quarterly or a 6-monthly target. But nonetheless, if you wanted to stick, it has to be given its due credence. Now, if you are sometimes the other concept that I'm quite familiar with, and you watch, even in the world, right, that the woman gets appointed after a crisis, because there's actually a thing called think crisis, think female, right, where people are all feeling upscuttled and they want a woman in to kind of, mind them effectively, right? But then they get out what's this thing called a glass cliff, right? With a really heightened set of expectations about, oh my God, this is going to be fabulous, this is going to do it, we're going to do whatever. And lo and behold, off she goes. That sense of expectation is really elevated, really high. And I think women as leaders, we have to be careful and be canny about not being pushed out on that glass cliff in our appetite to bring real change. We can still do it, but I think we need to bring a coalition along, and being out there on your own is pretty lonely. So I would say to any women leaders, particularly in innovation, I would say ask a few questions. If the CEO, if you're not answerable to the CEO and their support, you'd have to ask why. Do you have a budget? Or are you expected to do it on vapor and goodwill? Because if that is the case, I would be very careful about setting your expectations and your goals. I'm not saying don't have them. I'd say manage them in an environment that is supportive of you and your ambition. Because it is impossible to drive change without senior stakeholder support, clarity of your efforts, financial support with your, budget to do it. I mean, it's not going to be we could do it on a Friday if everything else is going okay. That is not an innovation strategy. If you're putting yourself forward for that role, if you're putting yourself forward as the driver of change, it is the same as if you were the CFO, this HR person, the marketing person. It is a job. And it is not the, if it happens, it's great.
Yeah.
It is a job. Where is the budget? Where is the support? And where is the board accountability for it? Because without that, frankly, you're at nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so important that, that people come with this great experience and interpersonal skills, they're able to manage that change, but organisational support is imperative to the success of that project.
Yeah. And find it or create it in your own environment, but and this is where a lot of perhaps, I'll just do it and then, good luck, not happening.
Yeah. What would your advice be to say there's someone listening to this just now that has found themselves in that situation? They're in an organisation where they're out on the glass cliff, right? They've found themselves with a really high expectations both from themselves and within the business, and they're maybe not set up to succeed currently as it is with the support that they have within the organisation. What should they do to change that?
Well, firstly, reach out externally to get some, support in your own sort of for your sense of yourself. And maybe to find some strategies that are either going to be, you engage with your leaders and you say, okay, if we are to do this, and innovation is we want that, and we'll know it when we see it. Yeah, good luck. What are we not doing in service of creating space to innovate? Where are those decisions? Because if we're not going to be doing our day job anymore, how are you giving me space to do what I need to do? How can I build an internal support group? How do you get some allies, either on the board or in your peer, your leadership peer group, to say, this is important, this is what we're going to do, I'm going to commit some resource to this, human or financial. Also have an external, be it a peer group, get a coach, certainly lean into us in Innovate Ireland, because we're all there, and Innovate Ireland came about really because we were all lonely innovators, because it is a lonely road when you're trying to drive change. And success has many fathers, as they say, but failure, which is what innovation is 90% of the time, is an orphan. And that is a challenge. So if you want to be supported and refueled for the next effort, having learned what you've learned and go again, it's really important to have a supportive group. And it is not you. And to not internalize this as a failure. This was a test. Did it pass? Did it not? Why did it not? What can we learn? What will we do different the next time? It is not a personal failure. It is not a personal slight. But failing to build a group of allies who can help build those connections in your organization, and to say, yeah, this is worth doing and I'm going to help you, support you, and bring people along with you, that's so important. Otherwise, you are setting yourself up for burnout. You're setting yourself up for internalizing this sense of failure, and it is not you. I did a master's thesis on imposter syndrome, and it's not a syndrome. It is not a thing. It is not a pathology. It is the factor of the circumstances you're in. And if you're not supported, you can't succeed. It's not by working harder or self-reproach or thinking you're going to do this or that or the other. That's not it. It's, did you have a team? Did you have a budget? Did you have a boss? And did that boss support you? And if it's none to any of those things, it's not you, it's them.
Yeah. I think so much of this comes from the very top of the business, right? Having buy-in at that, as you say, if you're not reporting to the CEO, you're going to have a really hard job. So how do you, if you're going into an organisation in your consulting business and you're finding there's maybe not a total buy-in from that leadership level on whatever the innovation is that they're looking at, how do you go about influencing sort of mind shift change in that space?
I gave a talk recently and I gave the example of, you can do a very quick assessment on innovation culture. If somebody arrives, into whatever job on a Monday and they do the induction and it's you have to do it this. And the first question is, why do you do it that way? And if you're not set up to capture that question, and then if the response is, oh no, that's just the way we do it here, that's a fairly good indication of, because that person will never put their hand up again. Mm-hmm. They'll say, the message received is, don't question, don't ask, because you'll be told. So we want to ask a question. If I have a general, I love doing the whole, the cup of coffee and the chat. I don't, go in and do an audit. I go in and have a chat. And you can tell by either body language or response or, but yeah, still, we have to do this. That's grand. You can do all of that. Yeah. And you can tell. And then if you look in the whites of the eye, and if I talk to a CEO or COO, I go, are you serious about this? Because where's the plan? Where's the budget? And who's doing it? And they kind of sometimes will look at me going, oh, we thought you were going to do it. No, because unless you're doing it every day, every week, I'll be here for however long you want to talk to me for, but who's going to own this? And what markers are you putting in place? What measurements are you putting in to say, yeah, we're going to make a bet on this. This is risk capital. We're prepared to make that risk. But the person who's doing that job still will have a promotable path to their next whatever. Mm-hmm. Because that's the piece that if you're not giving somebody the psychological safety to try and to know that their job's not at risk, or, that's a real challenge. So they, we really want to do it. Yeah, but no. And then you can suss that out pretty quickly.
So we've spoken about a lot of the softer skills, for want of a better word, that it takes to be an effective leader through change and through innovation. There may be women out here listening that see themselves with a lot of those leadership capabilities, but they don't maybe work in a technical field or anything that would be true research and development, innovation work that they see in kind of that box thinking. How does a leader move into that kind of innovation leadership space if they think they'd be an effective leader within innovation, but they maybe don't come from that kind of hard technical background?
So again, this feeds into this broadening definition of creating intentional change. So if you have demonstrated capabilities of being a change leader, coming from whatever background, operational improvement, HR, marketing, whatever it is, right? You're effectively demonstrating your ability to bring people along with you. Now, in my technical world, I have also met a lot of technical folk who the last thing they ever wanted to do is the people side of the house, right? So I would advocate for building an allyship of both. The people who don't really like the people side of things, and then the people who don't really like the tech side of things and don't really need to know the tech. They just need to know what questions are going to come up, what questions are going to be asked, and how they can bring that organization along. But having a mindset of taking information from all quarters, that is an innovative mindset, right? Internally, externally to the company, what's going on in the world? What's going on in my market? What's going on in technology? What's going to be coming at us in 20 years' time? Where's changes in demographics? How are you going to bring and make sense? So you're effectively a sense maker in an organization. That means being a good communicator, having people skills, having, an external view, but an internal social capital, which means that you are liked, you're respected, but you're connected. You don't have to be likable, but you are respected for what you do. You bring people along with you, and you can bring in the tech people, but sometimes you have to bring in the finance people, and then other times you have to bring in, the people who run the factory or people who operate the warehouse. It is all a patchwork of people and technology that is going to be our future. But having that oversight or that overview of all of those component parts is really important for a leader who can say, yeah, this is what's going to be important, or no, we're not going to play over here, and also make a compelling argument to either your board, your boss, your whatever, to say this is the direction I feel we need to go. And ultimately you have to back yourself, but you have to back yourself with fact and allies and bring that idea forward. It won't be simple, it won't be straightforward, there will be bumps in the road. That is life, change, and those skill sets are transversal. I don't believe you have to come from one particular road to be in that space. Having absolutely an overview and an appreciation of all of those different skill sets, different technologies, different whatever, but that's not what is needed. You need a sort of a snowplow to get that forward in an organization. So I think leaders can come from all places, all technology, non-technology, sectoral specific or not, because sometimes really interesting, you see people who come from, one sector moving into something else because they bring that perspective with them. And there's nothing that isn't, like, we are in a world where we need to have our periscope up and be looking 360 as to what's going to come, be it, as I said, externally, internally. And I think there's a really, really big space there for women to seize that opportunity, play that part, be that sort of intermediary with all of these parts. A very exciting place to be, a very interesting place to be, and to be able to bring that human element to change. Because we do have, I personally love change. I embrace it, but I appreciate that I'm a little bit further on the spectrum than your average bear. But maybe that's why I'm in this world. Not everybody moves at the same pace. I fully appreciate that, but understanding the human parts that hold us back or drive us forward is really important.
Yeah, great. And for organisations looking at that next generation of leaders coming through, what can they do to help, I guess, bolster that skill set? Like, how do organisations set up that next generation of leaders for success?
Yeah, I actually see a challenge, certainly in the generations behind me, about embracing that people part, the messy bit. We're very good at boxes. We're like, oh, well, I do this and I do that and I do that. Life does not come in a box. People are messy. There's a lot of people who are coming from a place of technical absolution. They want it to be absolute and just, if this is me, that's not the world. I would advocate for organisations to really help the generations coming through with communication, presentation, and influencing skills. Using their, that sometimes eye contact, Sometimes we're talking basics. But communication, a lot of people coming in highly educated, a lot of technical skills, a lot of sector or industry specific skills. But the transversal skills are thinking, communicating, connecting, collaborating. And hard to train, but creating space to do that is going to be, I think, what's going to differentiate people as leaders in the next 10, 15 years of work are going to be their ability to take ambiguity, make sense, communicate it to the organisation, get people behind either a plan, a project, an idea, a concept, and bring people along. There will be huge opportunities for people who grasp that opportunity now, build those capabilities and grow. I think technology will replace a lot of the kind of functional jobs. But for me, that creates an opportunity for those cross-functional, transversal roles that cannot be replaced by technology.
Yeah. I think there's that element of fear, as you've said, for that change, that mass change, which likely is to happen ever more quickly. Things seem to be running at pace. But yeah, there is just so much opportunity in it, isn't there?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. And for people who grasp it, opportunities are endless. But they're going to be those human skills. So lean in, get them, use them, and drive on.
Fantastic. Kathryn, thank you so much for this conversation. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, to talk about? How can people reach out to you in your business and also to Innovate Ireland?
Well, you can find Innovate Ireland at innovateisland.net. Also, just for interest's sake, we've created, because one of the challenges in Ireland we found was not knowing where to start, and not knowing there's a lot going on in the ecosystem, but not really knowing where to tap into. So on innovateisland.net, we've created an ecosystem map. So particularly for smaller businesses who may not know where next is for them, or to who and where they can get help and financial support and other sort of training and support. So I'd advocate for people to look there. For me, find me on LinkedIn. You'll find me, I'm Kathryn, Kathryn. You'll find me. I generally am commenting on all things innovation, small business, trying to build a policy that advocates and supports for innovation and a culture of innovation in Ireland. So I'd love anybody who hears this to reach out. I want to hear what's going on in other people's businesses as well, any challenges that they have, how we can help. We have a coffee shop every Friday, a virtual coffee shop every Friday on Innovate Ireland, where literally anybody can turn up, ask a question. We have talks on like AI, on tools and processes, on nothing, on what else is going on in the world, what will it mean. But it is a safe space, and for people who might feel that they're a bit isolated in their innovation role in their organisations, I really would advocate for them to reach out.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I'm
Pleasure.
Sure that you'll have some visitors.
I hope so. I hope so.
No, all the work you're doing is fantastic, and it's really inspiring. I'm looking forward to watching the space and see what happens in Ireland's innovation space in the next little while.
Great. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.